Hey everyone, my name is Prince, and today we're going to be talking about something pretty interesting in Call of Duty Zombies. For those of you who don't know, I myself am a massive fan of Call of Duty Zombies. And as well as playing a lot of the games, I'm also very invested in the complicated story. Now, something that Call of Duty Zombies does quite differently from most zombie games is that the zombies themselves aren't really a disease. Granted, they are infected, but it's not anything like a virus or an actual disease, unlike most zombie media nowadays. But no, the zombies in Call of Duty Zombies are people and corpses infected with element 115. And due to the fact that zombies in many respects in the Call of Duty franchise lean more towards magical creatures than they do infected people, it leads to a lot of interesting things that we can discuss. And one of the most interesting things to talk about when it comes to COD Zombies is the eye color of the zombies. Now, this has been a topic debated for a very long time. More and more eye colors have been introduced, and older eye colors have had their meaning rewritten. And to this day, we still don't have a concrete answer for most of these, but in this video, we're going to be going over every single eye color from the beginning of World at War Zombies all the way to the end of Black Ops 4 Zombies. And no, I'm not going to be discussing eye colors from the Dark Ether era of zombies, which includes Cold War, Vanguard, and Modern Warfare 3, because let's be honest, after Black Ops 4, the story of zombies was done, and they're just dragging it out now because Treyarch was stupid enough to introduce Chaos in Black Ops 4, instead of waiting to finish the Ether storyline before introducing its replacement. And besides, I really can't be bothered to talk about the Dark Ether games, considering that the most recent of which, the developers can't even keep the servers up for a day, let alone write a decent story for it. But with that out of the way, if you do go on to enjoy this video, then make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and go join both the casual Discord, which is my central YouTube Discord, which I use to let you guys know whenever I upload or go live, and the COD Zombies unofficial Discord, which is basically just a Discord for fellow COD Zombies fans to come and hang out with one another. So without further ado, let's talk about all of the eye colors in Call of Duty Zombies. Now, we're starting off in Call of Duty World at War, when Zombies was first introduced. Now, back then, COD Zombies was nowhere near as big as it was in the days of Black Ops 3 and 4. It was a tiny little bonus mode that didn't even have its own budget. Due to this, in the World at War era, there wasn't much thought being put into the story. And due to this, the original zombies in Call of Duty Zombies were given the simple glowing eyes of the color yellow. Now, of course, as I just said, at the beginning, this didn't mean anything. But as the mode progressed and the developers realized that people were enjoying it, they finally decided to integrate a story into it. And we eventually learned that the eye color of yellow, at least in the early days of zombies, meant that the zombies were under the control of Samantha Maxis. Samantha Maxis was the daughter of Ludvig Maxis, the leader of Group 935, who were responsible for creating the zombies. After being betrayed by his friend and colleague, Dr. Edward Richtofen, Samantha and Maxis were locked inside a teleporter. Whilst under attack by the original zombie dog, or Hellhound, Samantha's dog Fluffy, both of them managed to escape via teleportation. Samantha was teleported to the moon, where Group 935 had discovered a mysterious device known as the MPD. This was a device fueled by Dark Ether that allowed people to control the zombies. Frightened, Samantha ran inside the MPD and became trapped inside it. Within the MPD, Samantha became corrupted by the Dark Ether, and because the zombies had a connection to the Ether due to being created by 115, and Samantha was in control of the MPD, which also had a connection to the Ether, Samantha gained full control over the zombies. And under her control, the zombies' eyes turned yellow. Now, I would like to briefly mention that the color of the zombies' eyes when they're not being controlled by anyone is a little inconsistent. Some sources suggest that when zombies aren't being controlled by anyone, they actually don't have any glowing eyes at all, which we can see in transit when the EMP grenades briefly sever the zombies' connection to the Ether and the controller. And yet other sources suggest that by default, zombies' eyes are actually a different color, which we'll be talking about a bit later. But like I said, at least in the early days days of zombies, whilst the zombies' eyes were yellow, they were under the control of Samantha Maxis. Now in this video, we're also going to be going over all of the maps that all of the different eye colours were featured in. Now you may be confused as to why I keep specifically clarifying that the yellow eye colour only meant Samantha was in control in the early days of COD Zombies. And I'll get onto that in a second, but the maps we know that during which Samantha was in control of the zombies for certain include the following: Nagdrun Toten, Verrucht, Shinonuma, and Doris from Call of Duty World at War, Kino de Toten, 5, Ascension, Call of the Dead, and Shangri-La from Black Ops 1, Moon in Black Ops 1, at least until the end of the Easter egg, Nuketown Zombies from Black Ops 2, at least until round 25, and Classified from Black Ops 4 as part of the Broken Cycle. During her time as controller of the zombies, under her father's orders, Samantha commanded the zombies to ruthlessly hunt down all members of Group 935, and persistently hunted Richtofen and the rest of the Ultimus crew during their journey. Unfortunately, her time as the controller of the zombies eventually came to an end during Moon, when Richtofen used a combination of the Golden Rod and the Vril Sphere to swap bodies with Samantha and take control of the zombies for himself. But we'll talk about Richtofen in a second, because funnily enough, we're not done talking about the yellow eye colour. Because weirdly enough, despite the fact we know for certain that Samantha was only the controller in all of the maps I've just mentioned, the yellow eye colour actually appears in other maps as well. The yellow eye colour first reappeared in the final map of Black Ops 2, which is Origins. Which is very, very strange, because despite the fact that during Origins we're actually helping Samantha, she herself is not in control of the zombies. We know that for certain. And weirdly enough, the yellow eye colour actually continued for the majority of Black Ops 3, being the eye colour of the zombies for Shadows of Evil, The Giant, the Eisendrache, and Zetsubo no Shima. And again, we know for certain that Samantha was not in control of the zombies during this time. We know that she's not the controller in Origins because during this time, after the events of the buried Easter egg, Samantha escaped from the original timeline and fled to Dimension 63, where she became trapped in Avogadro. And during the events of the rest of the zombies maps where the yellow eyes are featured in Black Ops 3, she's in the house with Dr. Monty. And despite the fact that we were gifted the Chronorium by Treyarch, which is a complete timeline of everything from World at War to Black Ops 3, to this day, over a decade after the release of Origins, we still do not have an answer as to why the zombies' eyes were yellow during this time, even though Samantha wasn't in control. So unfortunately, I really have nothing else to tell you about the yellow eyes post Black Ops 1, because we simply don't know who was in control during that time. There's nothing in the Chronorium about anyone else controlling the zombies, and in fact, during the time where Primus was wandering around collecting all the souls of the Ultimus characters, we never get any information about who's actually in control of the zombies. So that's really all I can say about the yellow eye colour, so I think it's time we move on. Now, as I mentioned, in the early days of zombies, we didn't even know that eye colour was an important thing, and in fact, it wasn't. Yellow was just the colour they happened to go with when they started making zombie maps, and when they started integrating the story, they just happened to decide that yellow meant that Samantha was in control. But as I also mentioned a couple of minutes ago, during the map Moon in Black Ops 1, the zombies' eyes were yellow until you do the Easter egg. Because during the Moon Easter egg, Richtofen takes control of the zombies from Samantha, and thus, the zombies' eyes turn blue. And I gotta be honest, I wish I was around when Moon first came out so I could have reacted to the zombies' eyes turning from yellow to blue for myself, because I imagine that after so many maps of yellow eyes and not knowing that the zombies' eyes could even change color, that was a pretty big deal. But after completing the Easter egg, the zombies' eyes stay blue because Richtofen is now in control. And the zombies' eyes remain blue for the majority of Black Ops 2. And all of the maps that include Richtofen Richtofen's blue-eyed zombies include the following: Moon from Black Ops 1 after doing most of the Easter egg, Transit as well as all of the Green Run maps, Nuketown after passing round 25 as Nuketown actually takes place at the same time as the events on Moon, Die Rise, and Buried, all of which are from Black Ops 2. Now, Richtofen's reign as controller of the zombies didn't last as long map-wise as Samantha's did. Compared to the 12 maps that Samantha was in control for, Richtofen was only in control for 5. And that's if you include Moon and Nuketown. If you just include maps where the zombies' eyes were blue from the start, then you've only got 3 maps: Transit, Die Rise, and Buried. But Black Ops 2 actually featured something incredibly unique, which is known by fans as the Super Easter Egg. During the story maps of Black Ops 2, which followed the Transit crew, otherwise known as Victus, players could choose to either do the Maxis side of the Easter egg or the Richtofen side of the Easter egg on each map. In the Richtofen side of the Easter egg, at the end of Buried, Richtofen gained full control over the ether again after his connection to it was fractured by Ultimus and Maxis during the events of Moon. During this ending, he purged Maxis from reality completely and put himself inside of Samuel Stuhlinger's mind. However, the Richtofen side of the Super Easter egg is actually not canon. The side of the Super Easter egg that is canon is actually the Maxis Easter egg. And during the Maxis ending of the Super Easter egg, Maxis is actually the one to gain control of the zombies. He places Richtofen's soul into the body of a zombie, allowing the Victus crew to kill him. He plucks Samantha from Richtofen's body on Moon and then proceeds to destroy the original Earth, which leads to Samantha escaping to Dimension 63 during the events of Origins. So that would be the end of Richtofen's reign as controller of the zombies. But weirdly enough, just like the yellow-eyed zombies, the blue-eyed zombies would make another appearance despite Richtofen not being in control. During the original version of Origins in Black Ops 2, the Crusader zombies, which are the zombies of the people that died in the Great War fighting with Primus, unlike all of the regular German zombies which had yellow eyes, these Crusader zombies actually had blue eyes. And this makes even less sense than the yellow eyes in Origins and all of the Black Ops 3 maps, because Richtofen is absolutely not in control. In fact, the version of Richtofen that was in control of the blue-eyed zombies doesn't even exist in Dimension 63. Not to mention that it seems really weird that in one zombies map where we don't know who the controller is, we have 2 different zombie eye colors. And what's even weirder is that in the Zombie Chronicles remastered version of Origins, the Crusader zombies don't actually have blue eyes anymore. They have yellow eyes like all the others, despite the fact that in the opening cutscene they still have blue eyes. So yeah, that's another weird mystery, and it's even weirder that in the remaster they changed it. So yeah, we don't really have an answer for that either. Again, like I said, there are a lot of things to do with the eye colors of zombies that we still don't have an answer for. I'm just telling you guys all that we currently know. Now, before we move on to the next eye color, I would briefly like to clear up a little bit of a misconception. Apparently, when Origins first came out, and potentially still to this day, some people have the misconception that the eyes of the Crusader zombies are actually purple. And I think this mainly comes from the original Origins intro cutscene where you can actually see the Crusader zombies. Because some people say that in this cutscene they don't look blue, and honestly, I think that's just complete rubbish. If you turn up the contrast, then I guess you could say that the eyes do look a bit indigo at best. But if you just look at the regular cutscene, you can tell, like, these aren't purple, they're very clearly blue-eyed zombies. I think it probably stems from the fact that these blue-eyed zombies, the blue is a little bit darker blue than the blue that Richtofen had. But to be honest, they're still blue, and I don't think Treyarch did this to try and differentiate these from Richtofen's. Because if they really wanted to differentiate these zombies and say, oh, they're under the control of someone completely different, then they could have just given them a completely different eye color. But yeah, these zombies' eyes were blue, and not to mention in-game they were actually the same blue as the Richtofen zombies, so I think that pretty much clears it all up. Now the next colour we're going to be talking about is actually a colour that only appeared in one map, and that was actually buried. As I told you guys earlier, in the canon ending of the buried Super Easter egg ending, the Maxis side, Maxis gains control of the zombies. Like I said, it's only for this map, and it's only after you do the Easter egg, so it's for a very short duration, but briefly, after you've completed the Maxis side of the Easter egg, the zombies' eyes turn orange. Now, the eye color of the zombies when Maxis is in control is pretty similar to the eye color of the zombies when Samantha is in control. And I suppose, in fairness, that kind of makes sense, considering they're father and daughter. Maybe it's got something to do with the fact that they're actually blood related. Maybe if Richtofen had a family relative and they were in control of the zombies, maybe the zombies' eyes would be a slightly different shade of blue. But regardless, it is enough of a difference that you can tell that someone different is in control. Luckily, we do actually have another map on Black Ops 2 where Samantha was in control, and that was Nuketown. And if you compare the two side by side, you can definitely tell that there is a difference. So yeah, there's not really much else to say about the orange-eyed zombies. This was the only time we saw them, because this was the only time that we saw Maxis being in control of the zombies. But it is kind of cool that Maxis did get his own eye color, and a lot of people do actually consider this a separate eye color from Samantha's yellow-eyed zombies. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the next eye color. Now, after Black Ops 1, the developers obviously realized that they could toy around with the eye color of the zombies. Originally, it was just yellow, but then obviously in Moon, they blew the door wide open and gave the zombies blue eyes because Richtofen was in control. And in the second DLC zombies map of Black Ops 2, Mob of the Dead, which is regarded by many as being the greatest zombies map ever made, we got the introduction of a brand new eye color, which to this day we actually don't know that much about, and that would be the eye color of red. Now, the red eye color of the zombies is probably the most confusing out of all of the different eye colors, not to mention that it's definitely the one with the most iterations in terms of us trying to figure out who it represents. Now, for quite a while, the only map that featured the red eye color was Mob of the Dead from Black Ops 2, a map that we really didn't understand and know the significance of until several years later. But further down the line, we actually got more appearances from the red-eyed zombies in T.E.D and Revelations from Black Ops 3, and Blood of the Dead and T.E.D the from Black Ops 4. And because of this, the identity of the entity that controls the zombies when their eyes are red is a little unclear. When Mob of the Dead first came out, we assumed it took place in Hell, so we also assumed that the red-eyed zombies were under the control of the devil himself. But then when we started getting more maps with red-eyed zombies, it started to get a little bit confusing. First off, with Mob of the Dead, we thought that the devil was in control of the zombies, which, to our credit, was not a bad guess considering how little we actually knew. Then when Blood of the Dead was coming around in Black Ops 4, some people thought that Brutus was actually the one in control of the red-eyed zombies, but that wouldn't make sense for all of the other maps that featured it, like Grodkrovi and Revelations. In Revelations, it was actually highly theorized that the Shadowman himself was actually in control of the zombies, which makes a lot of sense for Revelations and for Mob of the Dead and Blood of the Dead, because Mob and Blood take place in a pocket dimension that the Shadowman actually created, and in Revelations, the Shadowman, as well as all of the Apothecans, are the main enemies. But that still leaves Grodkrovi and T.E.D, and the Shadowman being in control doesn't really make any sense for those maps, because in both Grodkrovi and during the Broken Cycle in T.E.D the Shadowman was still locked inside of the Summoning Key, so he can't have controlled the zombies from within the Summoning Key because he basically couldn't do anything whilst inside there. So to this day, the red eye color still doesn't make that much sense, because whilst it makes sense for the Shadowman to be in control in Mob, Blood and Revelations, Grodkrovi and Tag It really doesn't make any sense at all. Not to mention that during the time of the Old West, a miner by the name of Clive Farnsworth, who lived in the same town as old Jeb Brown, the man who made the pack-punch machine, went down into a mine and became infected with element 115, turning him into a zombie. And according to old Jeb Brown, his eyes were actually red when he was undead, so how does that work? Because if red-eyed zombies are controlled by the Shadowman, then it would be a bit weird for the Shadowman to control a random miner in the Old West who happened to go down into a mine and touch some 115. So like I was talking about earlier, as an alternate to the theory that when zombies aren't controlled by anyone, they don't have any colour in their eyes at all, some people say that when zombies aren't being controlled by anyone, their eyes turn red. And honestly, I don't really believe that, because we heard, thanks to radios in some of the older maps, that when zombies aren't controlled by anyone, they aren't automatically hostile. When Group 935 first made the zombies, Maxis was actually briefly able to control them by giving them verbal commands. They did eventually go feral, but Maxis was able to control them for a few minutes. Then again, we've never seen what colour the zombies' eyes were when Maxis and the rest of 935 were doing these initial tests. But personally, I don't think red eyes means that the zombies aren't being controlled by anyone, because I think the fact that their eyes are glowing usually suggests that they are being controlled by someone or something. So to put it simply, red, I think, is the only zombie eye color where we actually don't have any confirmed controllers revealed to us by Treyarch. Until you get to the Dark Ether storyline, but as I said at the beginning of the video, we're not talking about that. And so we're gonna move on to the final main eye color of Call of Duty Zombies. Now, as we neared the end of Black Ops 4 and we knew that the Ether storyline was coming to an end, many of us didn't think we would ever get another eye color. But lo and behold, Black Ops 4 actually surprised us, and in a good way for once. As during DLC 3 Alpha Omega, the next to last Ether map, the zombies' eyes were not yellow or blue or red. They were, in fact, white. Now, unlike most of the main eye colors, we actually don't have any mysteries to do with white, and we know exactly who is in control. And the white-eyed zombies actually have quite an interesting backstory. As I mentioned, the white-eyed zombies were only seen in one map, and that was Alpha Omega, the Nuketown remake from Black Ops 4. Now, we knew for a long time that Nuketown had somewhat of an involvement with Broken Arrow, which was an organization like Group 935 that was studying element 115. Now, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, the only reason why Samantha and Richtofen could control the zombies was because they were inside of the MPD on the moon. It was a device that was linked to the Dark Ether, and it was able to control the zombies due to them being humans infected with element 115. But based on the research that 935 had done on the MPD, Broken Arrow actually managed to create their own zombie controller called the APD. Now, the leader of Broken Arrow was a man named Cornelius Purnell, and after many years of exposure to element 115, Cornelius started hearing voices similar to Ultimus Richtofen and grew increasingly paranoid. He began having recurring dreams that showed him becoming the Avogadro, which was a creature introduced in transit. Due to these dreams, Purnell started experimenting on himself using the APD. During one of these experiments, the facility lost power, which caused Purnell to transform into the Avogadro. Being locked inside of the APD, the Avogadro had access to control of the zombies, and thus, the zombies' eyes were white. The American pyramid device that gave the Avogadro control of the zombies was not as powerful as the MPD on the moon, and thus would likely only allow the Avogadro to control the zombies in a pretty small radius. But nonetheless, in Alpha Omega, the Avogadro was in control of the zombies, and I gotta say, the white-eyed zombies look pretty damn cool. Now, that's it for the main zombie eye colors, but I do actually have a few honorable mentions. And the first of these is actually green-eyed zombies. Zombies' eyes would turn a pale yellowish green when afflicted with Turned, one of the Black Ops 3 double pack-punch abilities. And also, in Nightmares, the completely separate Black Ops 3 zombified campaign, zombies' eyes were actually green as well, and they were a really nice-looking green as well. well. For those of you who don't know, nightmares was a really weird thing introduced in Black Ops 3. It was essentially the already existing Black Ops 3 campaign, except dubbed over and with all of the enemies replaced with zombies. In this weird alternate campaign, Element 115, as well as all of the other parts of the zombie storyline, don't exist. And instead, the zombies are a result of Virus 6115 being unleashed upon humanity. I remember playing Nightmares back in the day, and I won't lie, it was probably more fun than the regular campaign. And the other honourable mention I have is actually, funnily enough, a colour that I've already talked about, and that's purple. Because apparently, according to this screenshot I found on Reddit, this is literally the only one I could find, in Call of Duty mobile zombies, the zombies' eyes were actually purple. This looks like Shinanuma to me. Again, this was literally the only screenshot I could find. Oh, and also apparently some of the zombies' eyes were pink in Mauder Toten in Cold War, but we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for this video talking about all of these zombie eye colors in COD Zombies. I really hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and go join both the casual Discord and the COD Zombies unofficial Discord. Both the links will be down in the description down below. Again, thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and I will see you on another video or stream very, very soon. Goodbye, everyone.